Alrighty, hey guys, this is the 3-2 video, angles and parallel lines. Alright, so this is just a little bit more about that. Last time we named all the angles. Now we're going to actually look at what does this mean? How can this be applied? So the cool thing is if you cut two parallel lines with a transversal, so if you have two parallel lines, and remember you use this little arrow to symbolize parallel lines, and these can be, all right, if you cut them with a transversal, so another line, this is our transversal, then the following pairs of angles are congruent. You have corresponding angles. So corresponding angles, remember, would be like this angle and this angle, or this angle and this angle. Those are congruent. You also have alternating interior angles. So this angle and this angle are alternating interior angles. You also have alternating exterior angles. So this angle and this angle are alternating exterior angles. And really what you find, these angles right here and here, what do we know if you drop this one? These two angles are vertical angles. Vertical angles are also congruent. So you have something that looks like this with parallel lines. And also, just so you know, consecutive interior angles, so this one and this one, are supplementary. So they add to 180 degrees. And that's because this angle plus this angle is equal to 180. And when you add this angle here, then these two angles are going to add to 180. All right, so if you were going to prove, if you wanted to show that two lines were parallel, just by knowing the angles, you could do that if you found corresponding angles were congruent, or alternating interior angles are congruent, or a pair of same side interior or consecutive interior angles are supplementary, or that both lines are perpendicular to a third line. So if that one would be if this line was perpendicular to this line, then you know that those are parallel lines. All right, so in example 1, in the figure, the measure of angle 2 is right here, is 75 degrees. I want you to find all of the remaining angles. All of the remaining angles. All right, so it tells you here that M and N are parallel, and so you know multiple things. All right, well, just from looking at this, corresponding angles are congruent. So if 2 is 75, that means that 6 is also 75 degrees because these are corresponding. So the measure of angle 1, measure of angle 2, let's go ahead and write this all out. Measure of angle 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I'm out of room, and 8. Okay. So we already knew that 2 was 75 degrees. And we just found that these are corresponding angles. So 6 is also 75 degrees. All right. 2 and 4 are what? Vertical angles. So then this is 75 degrees. So 4 is 75 degrees. And you can double check the alternate interior angles are congruent. So that means these two are congruent. And this one, 6 and 8, vertical angles are congruent. So that's 75 degrees still. And just to make sure, we also have that alternate exterior angle. So this one and this one are congruent. So then these two are congruent. So there's your check for that one. All right. And then we know that consecutive interior angles are supplementary. So consecutive interior, these two. So now you have 180 minus 75 is 105. So you know that this guy right here is 105 degrees. That's 105. So that was angle 3. All right, well, vertical angles tell you that these two angles are going to be equal. So number 1 is 105 degrees. All right, we also know that corresponding angles are congruent. So 5 then is going to be 105 degrees. And here we have vertical angles again. So 5 and 7 is 105 degrees. So the nice thing is you know quite a bit just by knowing one angle, as long as you know that the lines are parallel. So these two lines must be parallel for this to work. All right, let's do number 2. So in this case, we know that the angle of 1 is 3x, and I always recommend that you just write these down in your picture if you have space. 3x plus 15. And then 2 right here is going to be 4x minus 5. And then 3 is going to be 5y. All right, well, because of corresponding angles in parallel lines, we know that these two, this line is your transversal and it intersects these two lines. P and Q are both parallel. Since P and Q are both parallel, we know that 1 and 2 are corresponding angles. Well, corresponding angles are congruent. So we know that the measure of angle 1 is equal to the measure of angle 2. These two angles are also congruent. So if we know that, we can just plug this in. 3x plus 15 is equal to 4x minus 5. Let's go ahead and solve for that. So we subtract 3 on both sides. 3x cancels out. You have 15x is equal to 4x minus 3x, which is just x, minus 5. You add 5 to both sides. So x then is equal to 20. All right, over here then, we also want to find the value of y. So y is over here. So these two angles, we're looking at this. These two are parallel, and this line then intersects these two lines, and they are both parallel. So this angle and this angle are also going to be congruent. So you know that this angle equals this angle. So you have 4x minus 5 is equal to 5y. Well, we can plug x in because we know what x is now. So 4 times 20 minus 5 is equal to 5y. And this is because angle 2 is congruent to angle 3. And that would be corresponding angles are congruent again. All right. Now, 4 times 20. 4 times 20 should be 80. Yep. So 80 minus 5 equals 5y. So now we have 75 is equal to 5y. And 75 divided by 5 is going to be 15. So y equals 15. And those are your two answers. You want to find the value. Double check, that's what you're trying to find. Trying to find the value of x and y. So yes, x and y. All right, you're going to do the 3-2 independent working class. There are 2 pages, one on the front and one on the back. Alrighty, I'll see you in class, guys.